On June 18, 2025, during a courtroom appearance by Nnamdi Kanu, Commander Gentle and the Biafran Liberation Army launched a surprise attack against Musa Boys, Asari Boys, and Nigerian military forces in Okigwe, Imo State, destroying multiple armored tanks and claiming battlefield victory. Commander Gentle's forces reportedly used explosives to neutralize the enemy tanks along the road to Obineti, claiming these forces included Nigerian army soldiers, Boko Haram fighters, and jihadist militants disguised as federal troops. Eyewitnesses described the battle as intense, with non-stop gunfire and explosions that caused panic and forced many local residents to flee Okigwe and its surrounding areas for safety. The Biafran Liberation Army claimed to have destroyed at least 7 armored tanks and forced the Nigerian army and allied militias to retreat, abandoning their week-long military campaign in the region. Following the clash, civilians in Okigwe showed video evidence of property destruction, accusing the Nigerian military and Musa Boys of demolishing private homes, including partially completed buildings with sledgehammers. One civilian expressed grief over the destruction of his home and property, stating he was not involved in any conflict and accusing Nigerian soldiers of unjust targeting and senseless damage to civilian infrastructure. In the aftermath of the attack, many civilians lamented what they described as years of corruption, neglect, and underfunding within the Nigerian military, saying soldiers were being sent to battle unmotivated, ill-equipped, and underpaid. A critic criticized the Nigerian government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, claiming military corruption was rampant and that unpaid allowances, poor medical care, and decaying infrastructure had demoralized troops. He alleged that some Nigerian generals and politicians were benefiting from the war, using poor soldiers as disposable pawns while avoiding accountability for past corruption cases like Dasuki Gate and others involving top military officers. He concluded with a call for the public to recognize Nnamdi Kanu's fight against injustice, warning that as long as corruption thrives in Nigeria's military and political systems, insecurity and insurgency will persist, regardless of any marching orders from the presidency. The early morning of June 18, 2025, began like any other in the hilly and forest-laced town of Okigwe, located in the northern part of Imo State, Nigeria. Life had been tense in the preceding weeks, with whispers of troop movements, sudden disappearances, and heavy machinery rumbling through the dense greenery that bordered Obineti and Umololo communities. Many people in Okigwe had already been living on edge. They had learned to sense the calm before a storm. But no one expected what was about to unfold that Tuesday morning, especially not with so much attention already turned toward the Nigerian capital of Abuja, where the high-profile courtroom appearance of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, was scheduled to take place. Far away from the capital, while the world was watching the courtroom through live updates, a different kind of battle was taking place. It was not in the court of law, but on the soil and streets of Okigwe. A heavy and bloody face-off erupted between a feared Biafran commander known as Commander Gentle and a combined force of militants and military-backed fighters made up of the Musa Boys, the Asari Boys, and several Nigerian army personnel. According to multiple eyewitnesses and footages uploaded online by local civilians, the attack was swift, fiery, and surgical in execution. Commander Gentle, known among his followers as De Yahoo for his unpredictable tactics and fast strike abilities, reportedly led the Biafran Liberation Army in a daring assault that dismantled heavily armored vehicles, stunned the enemy lines, and shifted the momentum of a long-standing standoff in the region. The roads of Okigwe were filled with smoke by mid-morning. Houses trembled as explosions echoed through the valleys. Some residents thought it was another round of heavy rains approaching, but what followed next changed that perception completely. It was not thunder. It was a string of successive explosions. According to local residents, the sound began just after 9:30 a.m. For those living around the Obinetti axis, it felt like the ground beneath them had been pulled out and turned inside out. Children screamed, mothers rushed for cover, fathers abandoned their motorbikes and market goods, diving into bushes for safety. As the sun climbed slowly in the sky, more details of the confrontation began to emerge. According to multiple reports from Okigwe residents and supported by videos later released by the Biafran Liberation Army media team, at least 7 armored tanks belonging to the Musa boys and the Asari boys were completely destroyed. These armored vehicles, believed to have been procured with the backing of certain political actors and Nigerian military insiders, were positioned in key parts of the Okigwe-Obinetti road. Their mission was clear. They had been deployed as part of a week-long campaign to flush out pro-Biafran elements and secure strategic areas believed to be staging grounds for separatist fighters. But the plan failed, miserably. The Biafran Liberation Army under Commander Gentle, using what has now been described as a combination of roadside improvised explosives, anti-tank rocket-propelled grenades, and coordinated infantry strikes, managed to surprise the opposition forces. Commander Gentle's men, many of whom were said to be young, barefooted, but battle-hardened fighters with deep knowledge of the terrain, moved with speed and ruthless precision. Within minutes, the armored tanks were engulfed in fire. Those inside barely had time to escape. Videos showed bodies being dragged out of the smoking wreckage. The insignia on some of the vehicles showed a blend of military camo and militia symbols, lending weight to claims that the Nigerian military was fighting alongside irregular forces under the cover of joint operations. The streets of Okigwe were deserted by noon. Most shops were closed. The air was thick with the scent of gunpowder and burnt metal. In parts of the town where the fighting was most intense, the buildings had holes in their walls, with some roofs caved in entirely. Several residential structures were also razed, and eyewitnesses later alleged that this destruction was not the result of crossfire, but rather deliberate acts carried out by retreating soldiers and militants under the command of the Musa boys. In a particularly emotional testimony captured on video by a civilian, a middle-aged man with a dusty face and trembling voice stood in front of what used to be his family's 2-story building. The structure was now reduced to a mix of shattered bricks and dangling iron rods. The man pointed to the debris and explained that he had saved for 12 years, working as a carpenter, to raise that building for his children. He had no affiliation with any group, he claimed. No weapons were found in his home. Yet it was smashed to ruins, with what he described as a sledgehammer used by military personnel. The man sobbed uncontrollably as he spoke, calling on the world to look beyond the headlines and see the pain ordinary people are facing every day in southeastern Nigeria. As more reports trickled in, another disturbing reality began to surface. According to claims made by the Biafran Liberation Army and some local elders, the Musa boys and Asari boys had not come alone. They had allegedly brought with them fighters from extremist groups, including elements believed to be associated with Boko Haram and other jihadist militias. These fighters, it was claimed, were dressed in Nigerian army uniforms to give the appearance of a formal military operation. If this claim is proven true, it would mean that insurgents from Nigeria's northeastern conflict zone have now been embedded in a campaign in the southeast, which would mark a dangerous evolution in the country's ongoing security crisis. By the end of the day, with the sun descending over the horizon and the echo of distant gunfire still lingering, Commander Gentle emerged in a short video address to his supporters. Wearing a camouflaged vest and holding what appeared to be a walkie-talkie, he confirmed that his forces had successfully repelled the offensive and destroyed the enemy's armored vehicles. He claimed that the attack was meant to send a clear message to those attempting to invade Biafran territory under the guise of federal security operations. In the short clip, Commander Gentle stated that any further military incursion into Okigwe or surrounding areas would be met with similar or greater force. His message was defiant, calm, and resolute. Across social media, the reactions were immediate. Supporters of Biafra hailed the battle as a historic victory, likening it to David versus Goliath. Some compared Commander Gentle's tactics to those of guerrilla heroes in history, praising his ability to outmaneuver better-equipped opponents. In contrast, voices from the federal government and military circles remained largely silent. Official statements were minimal, only confirming that an unauthorized skirmish had occurred in Imo State and that investigations were underway. However, silence could not hide the deeper truths already being whispered by soldiers themselves. A video surfaced showing a wounded Nigerian soldier being treated by a roadside with a small crowd surrounding him. The soldier, his eyes bloodshot and face pale, said with broken breath that they had been sent into battle without proper support, without intelligence, and without any real understanding of what they were up against. He claimed their commanders had underestimated the Biafran fighters, thinking them to be amateurs or scared youth. But what they encountered, he said, was hell in human form. He added that some of their colleagues simply ran when the explosions started, abandoning their posts and leaving behind their dead and injured. The events of June 18th quickly became more than just a local battle. They sparked national debate about the state of the Nigerian military, the worsening insecurity, and the hidden alliances between the government and private militias. In several radio shows and online discussions, critics of the Nigerian government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu lambasted the administration for mismanaging security priorities and allowing corruption to eat deep into the military structure. One commentator, a retired colonel now based in London, said that the military high command has become a marketplace where loyalty is sold to the highest bidder and operations are funded by bribes and kickbacks. He referenced past scandals such as the case of Sambo Dasuki, the former national security advisor under President Goodluck Jonathan, who was arrested in what came to be known as the Dusky Gate scandal. In that case, billions of naira meant for arms procurement were allegedly diverted for political purposes. According to the retired officer, those patterns have continued under new names and with new faces. He suggested that young soldiers are being sacrificed on the battlefield while their superiors buy luxury homes abroad, and politicians involved in the looting of defense budgets are protected by the same security agencies they have helped cripple. Another analyst, speaking from Enugu during a television program, explained that what happened in Okigwe should be a wake-up call. He said that the more the Nigerian government tries to suppress calls for justice and self-determination using military force, the more radicalized the youth will become. He added that Nnamdi Kanu's continued detention without a fair and conclusive trial, alongside the violent crackdown on Biafran voices, has created an emotional and ideological fuel that no amount of military hardware can extinguish. The analyst concluded by saying that the only way to secure Nigeria is through equity, dialogue, and honesty, not through deception, invasion, and propaganda. In the weeks that followed the battle, Okigwe remained tense. Many residents have not returned to their homes. Humanitarian concerns are growing, especially among displaced families now camping in nearby villages and church compounds. Several civil society groups have called for independent investigations into the conduct of both the military and the Biafran Liberation Army during the clash. However, trust is low. Most people believe that nothing will be done. They say it is not the first time soldiers have destroyed property or acted outside the rules of engagement, and it likely won't be the last. What is clear is that the story of June 18, 2025 will not be easily forgotten. For the people of Okigwe, it is a reminder of what happens when justice is denied, when voices are silenced, and when armed power is used as a substitute for meaningful engagement. For the Biafran fighters, it is a moment of validation, and for Commander Gentle, it is another step in a path that remains dangerous, uncertain, and deeply controversial. As the debate continues and as more footage and testimonies emerge, one thing is certain: Nigeria stands at a crossroads. Whether the country moves toward healing or deeper conflict may depend not on the weapons of its soldiers, but on the wisdom of its leaders and on the courage of its citizens to demand a better future. The days that followed the June 18, 2025 battle in Okigwe did not bring peace, healing, or a sense of closure. Instead, the tension in the air only grew thicker. The burning remains of armored tanks, the crushed walls of civilian homes, and the blood-soaked soil of Obineti became a haunting landscape. People whispered stories in low tones. Some wept silently, while others stayed up through the night, afraid that another round of violence would erupt at any moment. As the national media tried to gloss over the events or downplay the scale of destruction, Okigwe and its surrounding communities were living through a very different reality, one that could not be erased by news silence or political denial. Commander Gentle, the man at the center of the battle, was both celebrated and feared. In some parts of Biafra land, people described him as a folk hero, someone who stood his ground against well-equipped forces trying to overrun a land they believed was rightfully theirs. In other quarters, he was spoken of in reverence, almost like a spiritual protector who had risen to defend the people when all other hope had failed. His followers claimed that his strategy during the Okigwe ambush was not just a show of brute force, but a display of superior military intelligence and emotional connection with the land he was defending. A young fighter who called himself Ikena gave a detailed account of what happened that day. According to him, Commander Gentle had spent weeks preparing for the confrontation. He claimed that intelligence reports had come in, warning that the Musa boys and Asari boys were not just coming to patrol the town, but were planning to set up permanent outposts in Okigwe. Their goal, according to Ikena, was to enforce the will of political actors in Abuja who wanted to control southeastern Nigeria through fear. Ikena said that Commander Gentle and the Biafran Liberation Army leadership interpreted this move as an occupation and decided to act before those outposts became impossible to remove. Ikena's description of the battle itself was chilling. He said the operation started just before 9 a.m. with a small team of scouts moving through the forest paths around Obineti. Once it was confirmed that the enemy vehicles were stationary and within range, teams armed with RPGs and locally developed explosives moved into position. Some of the fighters, according to him, had been hiding in old-school buildings and behind small hills, waiting for the signal. The first blast came from a landmine planted just days before. The explosion hit the rear tank of the convoy, blocking the escape route. Then, like a wave crashing over rocks, the rest of the attack began. Explosives, bullets, smoke, and war cries filled the air. Within minutes, the entire road was a war zone. While the Biafran fighters had the advantage of surprise and terrain knowledge, the Musa boys and Asari boys were said to be confused and disorganized. Ikenna claimed that some of them were shouting commands in Hausa, while others spoke in Niger Delta dialects, leading to communication breakdowns. According to him, a few of the militia fighters even opened fire on each other by mistake. The Nigerian army soldiers who were with them were described as nervous and unsure of who was giving final orders. Ikenna said this confusion gave the Biafran fighters more confidence to push forward and finish what they started. By midday, the road was silent again, but it was a silence that spoke of loss, pain, and devastation. Smoke still rose from the tanks, and the bodies of fighters, both from the militia side and the federal soldiers, lay scattered across the battlefield. The Biafran fighters quickly disappeared back into the forests, knowing that reinforcements might arrive soon, but none did. The federal forces did not launch a counterattack. The Musa boys and Asari boys, many of whom had fled into the nearby bush, never returned to reclaim the area. Okigwe, at least for that moment, had been taken back. For now, Okigwe is quiet again, but it is the kind of quiet that speaks more of exhaustion than peace.
Mpandempa, Igwe Obatobie, your men have neutralized the enemies. Today is the 18th of June 2025. As Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was on the court day, defeating the Nigerian Janjaweed, defeating the Nigerian federal government in their own courts, being the 18th of June 2025, the Nigerian terrorist government, under the watch of Hope Uzodimma, arranged this war. You know, we have been announcing that we are in a very brutal war in Okigwe State. Today, being the 18th of June 2025, the Nigerian terrorist government came with their many armored tanks, of which we have the Biafra Liberation Army have neutralized one armored tanker here. As you can see it, this is where we use explosion. With the Okigu, we are destroying them. We are neutralizing them, as you can see it. If I bore live, Okigu, the Biafra Liberation Army uses Okigu to destroy them. The army, the Nigerian Air Force, the Nigerian terrorist military, because what we are fighting now is Boko Haram. We have defeated the Nigerian army, and they have recruited Boko Haram, ISWAP, Fulanis, Mieti Allah into Nigerian army. So they are coming. This is the road leading to Obinetiti. As a confirmation, this is Obinetiti. This is Obinetiti. As you can see it, this is the armor tanks tire, the tires of the armor tanker. Mpandempa Igwe Batobie, we are neutralizing them. We are defeating the zoo. So habara na lena ka habara and ihe ji ekwado onwe anyị ebe ka anyị nọkwanụ anyị wee susuo ha ebe a kwenchi aha here all 7 armor tanks ka ha jizi bịa as a responding team with 7 armor tanks bịa toye this one mpane nenonu na ọdakpụrụ mpane me live ne awo Ogbunigwe today be the 18th as the Biafrans are defeating the zoo, as Simonekpa are defeating the zoo, as Mazi Nnamdi Kanu are defeating the zoo. The men of the Biafra Liberation Army are here defeating the enemy. And after here, now there's another video I will show you. at oil mill Kabob. After blowing them here, after men on ground now, blowed them here, stampeded them here, engaged them here, and kill many of them. And this ammo tanker, many people there are dead. Who don't see ammo tanker amputa? That's why had you been a Kabob. Ebana eme oil mill gazezuoshi. They begin to stay and begin looting. So I will still bring up that video clip of that oil mill where the Nigerian terrorist government, Asari Dakoba boys, Musa boys, the Fulanis, the jihadists, Ediafono, all way back Ediafono, always back at neutralize Ediafono, and how about also the Nigerian army have run away. The war that they want to extend for 1 week, they have run away after dealing with them here. So, Mpa Igwa Batobia, Mpa Inyawo oil mill, nona eke abobo. Mpa Inyawo oil mill, nona eke abobo. Inyawo oil mill, ebe ndemadu, ebe Biafra na asụta mmanụ. So after Mbaho, after Akoroha Obunigwe, destroy Akoroha Obunigwe, then Akoroha Obunigwe, then no more tanka. Musara, won't you need me Patran, cannot no Bachen, won't you need me Patran. Then how on their own returning how but as na this environment, na this oil mill and we because your man and them mother. We because I'm man them mother. Because you are man them mother, them because send them man now. The point have this one now. Like 10 people not have their friends not have phone or email. Look at. Habrunya or the Kanya Habru 10 of this Natian and more tanker. I must more woman or washi. Hope of them or washi. Dear mother have a little their France. Look at it.
Well, I want to see what me cost for my house. I just come my house. See house where I really build. They fall this fence like this. So I 4 millions of naira. See. Nigerian army do my house. Nigerians. Wanna see. Young boy where he come, where just really seriously they say make you stay alive they be. Now government and I don't know Enogi. Just demolish this kind of house like this. Look the house. This house, they fall this fence. Okay, this fence is not even enough. They just go somebody, master. This is a finished house. Don't be house where we say they see they work on, or maybe say they work. See they look. There are things inside this house. See. Look at the first parlor. See.
Okay. Snap now.
See. This place now wall oh, not be so here be now full wall dey this place oh. Now they use sledgehammer. I don't know what they take break my house.
Hammer with half.
Take break somebody house.
Play the back. Call this out.
Not only my house, this area where they break oh. See houses they leave those ones now. My own they come break for you. They still break the other side too.
No, now only this one.
They still break here too.
Now go. And then knock on this one. Look at this.
So guys, you can see the lamentation of this young man. What the Musa boys did to his house, I don't even know what led to this particular destruction. This beautiful house like that, an army man destroy it because this guy is just a civilian. Guys, so many things they happen for this country. So many things they happen.
Nigeria army and
look at the place that place.
See, finish house. Now they just do like this. Oh, house that I built with my sweat. See, this is a full house. Now no gear and see fence. Why I say fence my house? And this same streets, I bought 5 poles. 5 poles. Now I buy for this street.
Say the pole. You say you get right to go put a pole for soldier land. Now so the soldier man talk.
In short, if you think I don't know what I'm saying, I dare you to come and pick me, and I'll prove it to you, not based on newspaper headings, based on reality, that some of these corrupt military officers and some of these corrupt politicians are sending a bunch of demoralized soldiers and ill-equipped soldiers to go and face their death warrant in the name of trying to protect the country, and at the end of the day, they end up becoming casualty victims, and even the people they are protecting to become victims. Are you trying to tell me that a lot of the generals are not aware that some of the allowances of these men, these soldiers, are still not being paid? A lot of the provisions that are enshrined in what is supposed to guide their conduct, their provisions, is not being paid? Are you trying to tell me that the Senate Chairman Committee, the House of Reps members in charge of all in charge of oversight functions in regards the conduct of military operations and all their activities are not aware of the fact that these soldiers are still shortchanged, some of the soldiers are still ill-equipped, some of these soldiers are demoralized? Are you telling me that? I'm going to tell you that factually. I am telling you. And President Tinubu, you will never be perceived, you will never succeed in regards this insurgency and insecurity till you are ready to fight corruption. But from your body language, it seems you are not even ready to fight corruption. What are you telling me? Let's look at it now. When was the last time? Kitten is one of the basic necessities of soldiering job. When was the last time issues were distributed according to the provisions? These kittens are supposed to, the uniforms, the boot or whatever, are supposed to be distributed biannually. When was the last time it was done? Most especially in the Navy. We're talking about almost like close to like 10 years ago. And you are sitting there down here and you are now acting as if you are not aware. What happens to the medical service that these people are supposed to be benefiting from? What are the medical services? It's rubbish. A typical military man would prefer to go and subscribe to private hospitals rather than going to military hospitals that are supposed to checkmate that. Are we going to be talking about their allowances? Their allowances are still so changed up to today. Are you saying you are not aware? At the end of the day, you send a bunch of demoralized soldiers, and at the end of the day, they are now at the mercy of Boko Haram, bandits, and the rest of it. And all you can do is whenever situations happen, you come and say you are giving a marching order, you are giving a marching order for military to go and apprehend. How many have they apprehended? You have a lot of corruption charges that you are supposed to look into. And I wonder why the likes of even Buhari are working freely when they have a lot of questions to answer. What happened to the Dasuki Gate? What is now the situation with Dasuki Gate? What happened to the charges in regards to the former chief of naval staff, Jibrin? What has happened to it? And a lot of other corruption charges in billions. And you are sitting quiet and keeping quiet. All you're just thinking about is defection, how to win the next election, stand and kick against them. Look at the way they are just unaliving soldiers. Look at the way they are unaliving civilians. And at the end of the day, we come back and play politics about this. How long is this going to remain? A lot of shortchanging. Look at their feeding. Look at, how do you expect a soldier now that is faced with a lot of these things in his head? The fact that he's thinking about how to survive, how to feed his family. There is no good adequate medical care. Kitten, he have to buy boots for himself. He have to buy uniform for himself. Out of how much? It's only in Nigeria that you see a soldier trying to see how he can measure to survive out, feeding, just feeding, till the next era comes. They complain of being shortchanged. You people introduce IPPIS. IPPIS, what has it changed? Nothing. You have succeeded in just dividing one part to some of the corrupt military officials and one part to a kind of a private business entity. What is happening recently of the moment? You have a situation where they are paid allowances. It takes almost after they are paid IPPS. It takes almost after 15 days for them to receive their allowances, dividing this little money that they have. A lot of ills going on. And I bet you, If you are ready to fight insecurity in that country, if you are not ready to fight corruption, I'm telling you, there's nothing that's going to change. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. A lot of ills, a lot of corruption is going on. Tell this to everybody. A lot of corruptions proven, it can be proven that is still going on in the military. And you are quiet about this. You are quiet about this. All you can just come and tell is you have given marching order. What the hell? Who has marching order helped? Look into the details. Look into the major cause of all these things. Why are we having a bunch of demoralized soldiers? Why are we having a bunch of ill-equipped soldiers going to fight this insurgency?
This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.